Hello everybody, my name is Funmi and this is Public Eye. Here on Public Eye, we try to connect the dots on some of the biggest issues of the day and many days gone by. The idea is that collectively, we can come to some sort of agreements or solutions or resolutions on some of these issues so that we can build ourselves a better life. We can build a better life for all of us. So that's what we are going to be doing on the show. To start, this conversation will be about rape. I know that rape is not a comfortable conversation to have for many people. However, it is a conversation whose time has come as the issue seems to be not only not going away, but getting exacerbated in Nigeria by the day. We are going to start with a story. So let me show you this.
I met Bayo at a friend's place. One of those, spontaneous parties that happen, few people gather together, there's food, there's alcohol, there's music, and we hit it off almost immediately, especially when I found out that he also is a back-end developer and works with an international organization, one that I had been looking to check out. Later in the afternoon, he called and invited me out for lunch, which I tried to decline, but he was persistent. On the night that my life and worldview changed, Bayo had convinced me to go out to dinner with him at a newly opened restaurant in Ikeja. That night I was really not in the mood. I had been working all week non-stop. We had a project that my team had to deliver on, and it was already looking like we're not going to deliver, and I was super tired. But like I said, Bayo was persistent. He convinced me to go out in spite of my tiredness. He said it would be a nice break from the pressure of work. In the middle of our meal, Bayo asked me out. He said we had known each other enough to start thinking about settling down. He said at 28, time was no longer on my side. I think it was that sentence that helped me make up my mind, because I can't date someone who thinks like that, who thinks women have expiry dates. That's unfair and that's wrong. So I turned him down as gently as I could. I told him I would want us to remain friends. He just smiled, moved on from the conversation. And all the tension was gone, and we're back to, jokes and whatnot. The evening was smooth. He drove me home, and when we got home, he said he had to take a leak and he wanted to use the toilet, So if he could come upstairs, and I said, sure, why not? Bayo came upstairs with me, and I was waiting in the sitting room for him to use the toilet and come out. And he walked out without his shirt. And before I could finish asking him why he was acting weird, he crossed over to where I was standing. He grabbed me, he slapped me. And while I was still reeling from the shock, he punched me, and he didn't stop. He called me all sorts of names. He said I'm a tease, and I was deliberately leading him on. He said he'd show me that there was nothing wrong with him. I never said there was anything wrong with him. I never made him feel like he wasn't good enough. I just couldn't date him. I really can't remember everything that happened afterwards because Bayo did not stop hitting me. I begged. I cried. He did not stop. He tore my gown. He raped me. Bayo raped me. And when he was done, he started begging. He said it was the devil and that he didn't know what had come over him.
That was difficult for me to watch. Yeah, I'm going to start with Ayodeji. Ayodeji Oshowobi is the mind and soul and person behind Stand to End Rape. So Ayo, it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And I know that would also have been double difficult for you. You know, I mean, and somebody else who's on the show that I just know that this could not have been easy for is Yinka Alaba, survivor of rape. It started when she was 15 by somebody who was living in the same home as the aunt she was living with until she got pregnant. Right now she's 20. She has a 4-year-old child who's been taken care of by her mother. The perpetrator has been, arrested and prosecuted, and he's been made to take some sort of responsibility regarding your child. And this was done by Pastor Bimbo's church, isn't it? Foundation.
Pastor Bimbo Jukoya's foundation.
Yes, foundation. They managed to get you some justice on the matter.
Yeah.
What does it feel for you now? To even hear stories about rape, what does it feel for you hearing about it?
Right now, I feel bad, very, very bad, when I hear of such stories. Because when it happened to me, I didn't expect it. I went through a lot of pains, traumas. So when I heard story against that this girl went through rape, I used to feel bad. I'll be like, so she went through all I've passed through. I'll feel bad for that person. I used to feel bad. God, please let this thing stop. Let it stop. But it continues like that, like that, like that. People are trying to cope it, but it still continues.
Yeah.
I really feel bad when I hear about it. Till today, rape and domestic violence, I feel bad.
Because you're 20 now and you're a student,
Yeah.
wanting to go on with your life. But the question people always ask of people is like, why didn't you say something? Why did you, for you, for example, it went on for so long.
Yeah.
It's somebody inside the house, you see the person all the time. They say, why didn't you say something?
I can't talk because, number one, I wanted to go to school. And this guy will tell me that, okay, you want to tell her, right? Tell her. And that will be the end of your stay in Lagos. It will be scaring me. There was a time I was even misbehaving in the house. Maybe she would just send me packing, stuff like that. I will just be misbehaving, doing some annoying things. And she would tell me, that's what I wanted. She would tell me, go and pack your load. I'll be very happy. And when he comes back from work, he will start begging for me. We tell them, oh, don't send her. You want to destroy her life. When she goes back, she will not go to school. Please, let her stay so she can finish up her secondary school. Maybe after her secondary school, she can go back. I won't be able to talk. Okay, if I should tell someone that this guy is doing this to me, nobody would believe because, number one, he was a very, very jovial person. And again, he was an usher in the church. So who will I tell that an usher is doing this to me? Who will believe me? I could not just talk. And I was scared because of all what he has put in me, that if you should talk, I'll do this to you, I'll do that to you. I was very, very scared. I couldn't just say a thing until I got pregnant. And I was like, this is the end of the road. I ran to my school counselor. I told her everything that happened. So you could have talked. I said, I could not talk. That was when the case started. Police got involved. Court matter. And everything just went on like that, like that, like that.
I'm going to come back to you, especially to the bit where police got involved, court matter, and you found some justice, because only a few cases in Nigeria have, made it to conviction. And part of the problem is it's such a traumatic experience itself. Just going to court is a lot of wahala, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of stigma. So it's not easy, but I'm going to come back. Ayo, you were listening to her when she said that bit. Something she said that interested me was, they will not believe me. I must say this though, doing this show for me today is a victory. And I'll tell you why. When I was doing New Dawn, 15 years ago, and I did a whole month. I decided we're going to do a whole month on rape. It was like the country and the world was going to come down on me. The abuse, the attack, because at that time, nobody would talk about rape. Nobody. And the victims, the survivors would not come forward. So to be able to do a show like this, to come to a future where your generation of women and men are talking about it, where even the police declares a state of emergency, states are talking about state of emergency about rape, for me, is actually a victory. And I think this is important for your generation to recognize that less than 20 years ago, you couldn't even do what we are doing now. But what hasn't changed is that nobody still seems to believe when it happens. Speak to me about that.
I had my own personal experience, and I think the reason it was easy for me was because I have, or is because still
you were one of the first ones to use social media to talk about my experience. What happened to you.
Yeah. And I still have very supportive parents who were ready to listen to me. I felt like her as well. I felt like if I tell them, how would they feel? Will I be a disappointment to them? Would they be upset with me? Like, oh, you are an adult, you should know where to go and where not to go. And these things were not really within my control, but these were like the normal or general questions that I expected. But on the flip side, I got a lot of support from my parents. And so from that period to where we are now, a lot has changed, but some things still hasn't changed, or haven't changed rather. You have cases of survivors who will call us privately and say, I don't want my mom to know, but they're underaged children, 16, 17. And we're like, listen, according to the law, we still need to involve your caregivers or, your parents. They're like, no. I don't want my mom to know. She will insult me. Is it because you're wearing makeup? It's because of this and that. And for me, it shows a huge problem. If the safe space, or where we consider as safe, which is a family front, would not even listen to survivors, is it outsiders we expect to listen?
Right.
And even if outsiders listen, there is a sort of support you need from within your family unit that an outsider cannot give to you. So for example, I don't live with survivors every day of their lives, right? They speak to me, we provide support to them, but they go back home.
Yeah.
The home is where the support should be. And when these cases come, to the public, that's when everyone becomes the judge, the jury, executioner, the police, assistant police. Oh, this is not aligning here. Oh, I can see a hole here. Everyone is trying to pick a hole in someone's story, but not really listening and hearing the pain and the call for help in all of these stories. And so my heart goes out to her, really.
One of the things I didn't want to do on this show was have women talking about rape.
Yeah.
I wanted men and women to talk about rape because actually most rape is perpetrated by men.
Mm-hmm.
I know that men can be raped too.
Yes.
I know that many men are raped too.
Yes.
Often by other men.
Yes.
Hardly ever by women. So it's unfortunate that it's one of those crimes that mostly it's men who perpetrate it. And that's why, even as we speak now, because we did kind of like a random survey of people's opinion. This is why social media is good, because we then saw how people, when there are these cases, we started collating comments that people make, mostly young men and even older men about rape. A lot of them consider rape a sex crime. So they think it's like sex, that Shebi is sex. So they don't understand it as what it is. And one of the things I wanted to do, and I don't want to put the young men in the audience on the spot, but yeah, we are men and you're here. And so I'm going to grab you because I wanted to ask some questions of men, and if any of you wanted to speak, if you just raise your hand, I would ask you. Otherwise, I would just come to you and ask a question. One of the things I wanted to understand is, why do men do it? Why? I mean, she mentioned that the man who was raping her for years as a minor was a jovial, likable man. So I'm going to ask, because you and I are looking at each other, and you can take off your mask.
I think we need to go back to the childhood, to the schools, and we need something like the poetry, to make, as we grow up, children are being taught that rape is actually a crime. Just the same way we address it to when we are growing up, we sing songs in school like so that it becomes something in our subconscious mind that rape is a crime.
You raised your right.
Okay, just like the video that we watched, you see that the guy there was making instances like, I'll prove to you that there's nothing wrong with me, or you're teasing me. I think that at the very core of manhood, there is this trying to prove oneself, trying to show that I am a man, I am able, I'm capable. And I think it's from a very deep place of how men have been trained and groomed over the years, and it's very flawed, because it's important for a man to know that you have nothing to prove. You are a human in yourself and you have nothing to prove.
I hold my friends accountable. I let them know that I can't be friends with anyone who is a rapist. So I've had the discussion with almost all my friends, I think all of them, that if I wake up one morning and I find you on the internet and someone is saying this person raped me, and I find out it is true, I will be very vocal about it. And I will let the world know that I do not associate myself with rapists. I think that if we all do that, maybe we can start the change that we really want. So I think that there should be like a long-term plan for people who have been abused. It's not enough to just help her take the guy to court and blah, 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 blah. And after that, there's no, because of course, if a girl who is staying with her guardians accuse her guardian of raping her and you take her out of the house, what other plans do you have for her that will also keep her safe from being raped again?
Right. You raised a very important point about power. The idea of asserting oneself over another. Do women also share sometimes the need to assert themselves over another?
So I think this goes back to really the way we were brought up as individuals. So if you look at the way girls are brought up, we're brought up to be, I wouldn't say very timid, but like very timid, kind of control yourself. These are things you should do. It's like a controlled environment. What we do, what we cannot do is told to us. But when you look at, the man, oh, why are you crying? Be a man. You're telling the person not to show emotion and sort of, accept power, show dominance, do not do this, don't do that. Your mates are doing this, you should be doing. Why are you dressing like a girl? Making very simple but very powerful, statements that begin to tweak in the minds of men or boys as they grow up. Like, okay, I shouldn't behave this way. This is how I should behave, and this is how I should not behave. And I absolutely agree with him. Rape is about power. It's about entitlement. It's not. So when people say why don't women also accept power? Because that's not how we were brought up. I cannot go on the street now and see a man and say, oh, I must get it from him, I must have sex with him by force. That's not who I am. That's not how I was brought up. But there's something about men in the training that they have. I'm not a man, so I can't speak for men. But at least I've seen men grow up around me, and I see the way they train them and the way they think. There's this sense of entitlement, a sense to establish yourself as the dominant person, to exert your power. I want this, I have to get it. If she says no, maybe she wants me to try harder, or maybe she's just trying to be shy. Yeah. Let me try harder again. Yeah.
Where the culture is so permissive of abuse of women, rape and abuse of women. But I'm going to go back again to Yinka, where you were talking about, I want to go back to what it was like to go through the whole process of going to court, to pursue the case.
It was really, really stressful. And at first, we started at family court. I won't stand in front of everybody. Is after they settle some cases, they'll call me inside, and everybody, my family, will enter inside, we'll talk about it. But when the man was not speaking up, he don't want to talk, he don't want to say the truth, he was still denying it. There was nothing the family court could do. We have to go to the high court. We went to the high court. It was not, I was crying that day because the whole place was filled up and I have to stand and they'll be interrogating me. I felt bad that day. It was very stressful. Mm. It was very, very stressful. And
what was it like?
It feels bad.
What was it like for when you got some sort of, did you go to jail?
He went to jail.
How did that feel like for you?
I was happy. Anyway, I was very, very happy.
Why is it so difficult to prosecute rape cases?
Man, that's a very interesting but tough question. And I'll tell you, because we have very weak systems. So both on the legal front, on the medical front, and even the psychosocial front, right? When it comes to medical, within 24 to 72 hours is when evidence can easily be collected for rape cases. But if you look at Nigeria as a whole, we have barely 15 or 16 sexual assault referral centers in Nigeria that does like emergency medical response. So when survivors are not able to get post-exposure prophylaxis or get, the semen taken out of them and analyzed, we've lost evidence. So a survivor will come and make a report, and then you go to the court will ask you. We don't work based on emotions. We work based on, evidence. Where is your evidence? So who can corroborate your story? You really don't have like a witness watching. Oh yeah, so this is the angle that they violated her. But the law expects or requires that there's someone to corroborate your story. How is that going to be possible? That's on the medical side. The law itself, is weak. So we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, and the state of emergency GBV, which you rightly mentioned, has been pushing for states to adopt these laws. We cannot keep saying that we want violence to end, rape has to end, but the instruments in place to facilitate this, we do not make use of them. Survivors begin to pull back and say, you know what, I've analyzed the situation. It will take me between 1 to 3 years to get justice. I would lose my sense of self, because I have to go to the courts to give an account of my story, maybe more than once or twice. And if you notice the process, when you go to the police station, you tell your story. You speak to the NGO, you tell your story. You speak to the state prosecutor, you tell your story. In the court of law, you're telling stories like to different people. And to be honest, if you tell a story 20 times, it can't be the same. There will be discrepancies one way or the other, because you will forget information. Especially if the case happened, say, 20 or 5 or 6 years ago. And then you begin to hear, a lawyer would prosecute you in the court of law and say, I don't think your story is factual, because 2 days ago you said this. Today, something is missing. And then you begin to hear, the case does not align. It can't align. Because it's psychosocial support that is supposed to ensure that a survivor only tells the story once, and every other party can work with that story, except the law then requires further testimony from them.
If you have something that is so difficult to manage and is so rampant and prevalent, isn't that the reason why there's many societies adopt a zero tolerance? So that in the first instance, when people know that it might be a problem, the conduct changes generally. What might happen that would make significant difference going down the line?
I think key things that need to happen. The first thing is all the states need to adopt the law, because what I realize is someone will rape in maybe, this is an example, I'm not mentioning states to put them on the spot. Someone may rape someone in Ogun State, for example, and then travel to Katsina, where he knows that it's a safe haven, because Katsina's law is maybe 20 lashes or, walk around the community, whatever it is that their law is. Every state has to have a unified law so that wherever you are, there's no hiding place for any perpetrator. Last year, the Sex Offenders Register was launched. British Council, European Union, NAPTIP, STAIR, and some other civil society organizations worked on that list. And what the list is supposed to serve for us is to ensure that cases are well documented. You cannot change what you don't know. We don't have data. So what are the patterns of sexual violence? Where is it occurring most? Is it in urban areas or communities? What are the socioeconomic status of those who actually violate? What sort of rape is more rampant? Is it intimate partner violence, child rape? What is it? We don't really have that data. So what this is supposed to help us do is to understand the data, and then we can create programs, either educative programs or legal programs, whatever the case may be, that would help address and fill all the gaps and the holes in the system, and then we can have a better society. Right. Another thing I think needs to happen really is the education. I can't overemphasize the importance. So it's great to have a legal system, but the princess will be full in no time if people are not changing their knowledge, their attitudes, and their practices. Behaviors over time that we have accepted as normal. It's really not right, and it needs to end. It starts with every individual, whether in urban areas or in the rural communities. It's educating them, helping them, see things differently. A very natural death. And it starts with how, we're educating boys in schools, how parents are, educating both boys and girls within the family front. You see men beating their wives at home. What do you expect the boys to do?
Do you think it's possible to actually get to that point where, almost like a campaign, that me, God forbid, I rape a woman? Do you know that kind of thing? God forbid. I see you smiling and nodding. Am I being desperate or crazy asking for that? Is it a possibility to almost have a campaign like that?
Yeah, it is possible to have that situation where people agree, come together, and like I said, that it's a thing of the mind. Really, everything that happens from your actions to what you say, what you do, starts from your mind. So it's really, really possible.
In terms of generalization, we can say institutions, we can say culture and just the environment and all of that, and we can say orientation, and all of this can be very systematic, really, and they must work hand in hand. So in terms of institutions, we know that if a person knows if I do something, I will be punished for it, they will think twice about it. Okay. And I wanted to thank you again for the work that you have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And my darling, thank you for your bravery. I didn't want you to be going over your story over and over again. You're studying psychology, right? I want her to get her psychology degree too. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking on the institution level, because in Lagos State in particular, it seems like there's concerted efforts going on. And I'm going to be talking with both the representative of the police and the unit in charge of rape and all other kinds of violence towards women in the state, right after the break.
So today we went to the mainland to report a rape case. We used the police station on the mainland. We got there, entered without any problems. Got to the counter. I was attended to by a female police officer. She asked why I was there, and I told her I had come to report a rape case. And the first thing she asked me was if I had a report from the Lagos State government. I was a little shocked because I didn't know that I needed to have a report from the Lagos State government to report a rape case. She went on to ask me who the young man was, and I tried to explain to her. She dismissed it and said she was going to get back to me. Asked me to take a seat in the waiting area. I did. She attended to a couple other people and then got back to me.
Which work are you doing?
Ma?
Which work you are doing? Be smart, you are a woman. Which work are you doing?
I'm an actor.
With the hands?
Yes, sir.
Are you the boss?
I'm like her friend.
Or girlfriend?
I'm the one encouraging her to come to police station.
Are you a virgin?
No, ma.
Be smart and talk to me.
I'm not a virgin, ma.
When the man gave you money,
No, ma.
you collect anything from him? You just leave with you and left.
Yes, ma.
You have not been collecting anything from him before? Nothing?
No, ma.
Not those ones that we ask you, the man has never given you any money before. Say, okay, come on, let's go out or something like that. Apart this one.
I met him in January at the club. That's the only time.
In the club, have you?
Yes, sir. She also kept emphasizing that, so we met in a club. Asked me, what I do for a living and what he does for a living, and if we've had sex in the past. Yeah, and then when she took down his number, called him a couple of times, he didn't take the call. And then she directed me to a different office.
Uncle, what I will do now, I will direct you to the second floor, maybe later. Maybe say maybe you should go to Lekki. There's a station. There's a Maroko police station.
Oh yeah, after that roundabout.
So I will direct you to somewhere first.
Okay.
Before that, maybe they will feel say you should go, or they will treat the matter. Yeah? There's a section. Domestic violence or anything. Make some people, they ask of them, Inspector Police. Go there.
Thank you, Mom.
You will see that one with their ID.
I got into that office and I was attended to by 2 women. I got asked the same questions.
If this office, this station will take up the case, it means we will be needing a referral letter
From
Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team and Lausa.
Ikeja.
Okay. That was when? Which day?
2 weeks, Mom.
Why are you just coming now? Where did you keep it? It's long now. Why?
And I think their boss arrived. She sat next to me and asked me the same questions. Albeit a little different this time, but she was sympathetic and she was willing to help.
Because of traffic, you can't meet up with Ajah again. Did you go to any hospital for treatment? This is my number I'm giving you.
Okay.
This is the woman you are meeting there at Ajah police station.
Okay, Mom.
So when you are going, you just let me know.
Okay, Mom.
So you meet her. She will deal with the need for him.
Okay.
Sorry for this.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mom.
Hope you not told people.
No, Mom.
Just keep it. Let's see how they do. Both myself and them over there. Let's see how we're able to manage it for you.
Okay, Mom. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, I was grateful for the empathy and maybe sympathy. But in a office where all I had gotten was what were you doing there? Is this person your friend? Had he given you any money? Are you a virgin? It felt good to finally have some empathy or maybe sympathy.
My next guests are those who will be able to put some sort of context and understanding to all of that and really what should happen when a rape occurs, at least for Lagos State. So I'm going to start with the gentleman on my left. You know, I see you smiling, you know, watching, and I wanted to get into your head when you were watching. My guest on my list is the Public Relations Officer for the Nigerian Police in Lagos, and that's SP Bala Elkanah. Very nice to meet you.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here.
Good to see you too. I will come back to you. And right beside me here on my right-hand side was someone I was looking forward to meeting because I wanted to see who was heading that particular unit. And she's the head of DSVRT. You know, DSVRT is the Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team in Lagos. It works within the Lagos State government. And her name is Titilola Vivor Adeniyi. Good afternoon. Very good to see you too.
Same here, ma.
Right. Let's start with the police. What did you make of that?
Well, at first I was laughing. I looked at her when we were just laughing at the first police station. Though it's not funny at all, but the truth remains that is where we started from. We used to have a unit called Juvenile Welfare Center, JWC. And that unit is responsible for domestic and gender-based violence. We took a sample of what they do. They have no single capacity to handle such issues apart from found child or missing child issues. So once there's a case of rape or defilement, it will be handled by general investigators. They use the same skills, the same questioning methods to investigate such issues, and we felt it's not enough. And we needed to do something different. The MPF partner with other organizations, even as far as reaching out to the British Council. Experts came from the UK to help us build capacity. Once we have a case of that nature, it moves straight to that unit They have a separate interview room where they listen to her. She will be attended to by just the investigators. And any other supervising officer who needs to know about the case will only go through the case diary.
Yeah.
They don't really need to ask her over and over again. That is the stage.
Sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to speak specifically regarding that because even before the capacity building and training, and I understand the limitations for, just the scale for now, going from, 11, I know there was nothing like that before. I also know about the old units. We did a lot of work with Alakara police station, so I know. But this particular case had, and this is a random case, had a policewoman saying to a hypothetical victim, are you a virgin? Should any policewoman or man not know that you cannot be asking that kind of question?
Sure, of course, it is wrong. If that police officer is not trained in this aspect, you don't expect the person to really give out the best in that particular area.
Shouldn't the generalized basic police training, which you get at basic police college, include knowing that you should not ask a rape victim, are you a virgin? What does that have to do with the price of akara, as they say? That one seems really random, and it's not we've seen cases like that over and over again. That woman was completely out of order as a police officer, out of order. She might have asked other things that I might think maybe, but that particular one, are you a virgin? And so what were you doing in club? I'm going to come back to you because I just identified, a light just went in my head, even about issues that are not just rape, where it comes to police in Nigeria, that's been an issue, because you can see some of the things that have become big news recently have to do with the police, whom we assume have this kind of basic training in certain things. No, it's the same idea that, okay, if a person has dreadlocks, they must be Yahoo boys. So this is things that come from the culture, but not the training. So the issue is what should constitute basic training for police officers in today's Nigeria, and we can come back to that. But I wanted to come to you, TC, first. What did you make of that? Is that typical of the kind of things you get to hear?
Just to reiterate what SP Bala said, I think handling sexual and gender-based violence requires specialists. Specialists not just in the police, at the police level, specialists in healthcare. We need designated sexual assault nurse examiners. Even as prosecutors, we have what we call SGPV prosecutors in the Ministry of Justice now. And then the courts, we have sexual offenses courts. These issues are very delicate. I love what she said at the end, that this last person attended to her with empathy. Not everybody has that skill. Not everybody has that passion. What sustains people in this space is passion, really. There's a role for skills, but you need passion. So it would not be wrong to say that this is what we would typically get in a random police station. And that's why we would work with the family support units. These are the designated police stations that we believe have been trained over the years, to investigate and prosecute sexual and gender-based violence crimes. Right. We're not saying those stations are perfect, but I think in terms of empathy, in terms of the referral pathway, that case, as soon as the lady came and said she has been sexually assaulted, the next thing is medical. The whole referral pathway should be activated. This person has experienced sexual abuse. Has she received medical attention? Has she been counseled? Is there any evidence of perhaps we can do DNA? Expose the survivor to the whole referral pathway. That wasn't done. And I can't really blame that person because she may not know.
You didn't know, yeah.
So I think we need to do a lot more in terms of trainings, yes, but I think we need to upgrade other divisions to family support unit level.
Right.
So we have 110 divisions, maybe half, at least half
of that.
FSUs across the state.
One of the things I've noticed through the years is everybody's fighting with everybody. So there's polarization. However, sometimes when you look closely, you see the gaps that are not intentional, and those gaps that are easy to close. Because, for example, part of when I say that, I'm thinking if more people knew which police stations to go to, one, and the police stations that are not yet upgraded to that level to handle that knew that immediately somebody comes in to direct them to the right one. So you don't try to, you just say, madam, go to this particular one. I just wanted to make that particular point. But what occurs in Lagos State now in terms of what is possible and what is doable? If, for example, somebody experienced rape today, what is the process?
A person is sexually assaulted today.
Yes.
The next thing is medical attention. In Lagos, we have the sexual assault referral centers, Mirabel and Warif. But since 2016, the government thought it best to upgrade primary healthcare centers to the level where they can provide sexual assault management service. And so at the primary healthcare centers, sexual violence is deemed emergency.
Yeah.
Aside from upgrading, we also provided rape kits, sexual assault evidence collection kits. So we believe that if the survivor presents immediately at the hospitals or at the SACs, a head-to-toe forensic medical examination is done. We can collect samples, package, and transmit to the DNA lab. At least that side of investigation is done. And then if the survivor did not go to the police first, we believe as well that at the primary healthcare centers or at the SACs, they should be able to refer the survivor to the closest family support unit, and then investigation can begin from the police angle. But as it is today, we actually can solve cases using science if survivors present timeously.
Right. That's important for people to know. So what I hear you say is, should a rape occur today, at least in Lagos, you can call or visit these centers. And you mentioned to Warif and Mirabel Center. And there they have capacity to scientifically do some sort of forensic investigation right there and then that will help the case going forward. And you're looking at scaling that up. What I always try to do, and what I try to do at the end of this show, is get some sort of resolution and promise from organizations and say, even if it's this very small thing, we're going to do it. What we are trying to do is rebuild some levels of public trust, because the nation will go nowhere if the institutions are either incapable, unsupported, or untrustworthy. So we're going to come back to the police. What is the capacity of the police to prosecute? Because from our investigation, what seems to happen is that the police seems to refer back to the government, to the state units, or to the NGOs. So what is the capacity to take it from the point where they've gathered the forensic evidence? You know, what is the role of the police in this system? I want to understand how that system works.
Hospitals, you see, are key to this. Sometimes they are the first point of call, then they refer to us. Then in times of prosecution, we have our legal department working closely also with a unit in the Ministry of Justice dedicated for such issues alone. So the investigators from the family support units and gender unit at the headquarters, their basic duties are to collect evidence, work closely with the hospitals, and also the forensic results. Move the case diary to Ministry of Justice for vetting, definitely, and legal advice. They will look at where we have gaps that needs to be filled before going to court and prosecute the matter in court. But the whole thing lies with the investigator, because in the administration of criminal justice system, the role of the investigator is very key. If he misses it at that point, the case will fail in court. That is the most important aspect. Once they miss those evidence, then the prosecutors also will struggle. And we are glad in Lagos here we have gone ahead with forensic examinations. We have some of the labs that are helping us for DNAs and quite a number of issues.
Getting the evidence is key. Preserving the evidence is key. You know, all of this matter. So if you don't know what the first thing to do is, you might jeopardize the case. So if you were to advise an average Nigerian person who has witnessed or, you know, been attacked, or whose relative has been attacked or something, what should that person do first?
The most important thing to me, if I am to advise, is for the person to approach the hospital without taking her birth. Issue of unwanted pregnancy will be taken care of. Yes, STD, STI will be taken care of at that moment. So her health first, then evidence follows.
You know what I think we should do is ask the people in the audience, a COVID compliance audience, but a rather good looking one, I'd like to say, to weigh in on what the people's expectations are, what the people's questions are, generally. And so let's see, where shall we start from? You can raise your hand and I will start. Okay, I'm going to start with a lady and one who hasn't spoken. I want to start with you.
So I heard you say earlier that they need to train certain officers specifically to attend to rape cases or rape reports. I feel that institutions have no business recruiting people that do not even have basic human compassion to deal with this. You get to the front desk of the police station or even the healthcare center and they are rude to you and you're not in the right frame of mind to even process certain things. The average officer you're meeting on deck should have human compassion. I really want the Nigerian police force and the healthcare center to focus on the people they put at the front line, the people that, they have members of the society have first contact with, because it's doing so much to destroy the image of these institutions. And it's not nice when we come and make excuses and say, well, they've not trained them, they have to prepare their mind. They don't have to prepare your mind for you to know simple courtesy or to be able to communicate effectively to someone who is hurting because you're a human being. Thank you.
So the clip we just saw is the average experience of a Nigerian, every young Nigerian on the streets, where we have police officers harassing them. Albert, this is just a station. So what I have to say, and just permit me to say, is the police force needs to be restructured. It is totally unfair and very sad to hear, these police officers and saying you met in a club, giving excuses like you met him in a club. So what do you expect from someone you met in a club? Those questions are very, very insensitive.
Right.
It's
I'm
totally
going to stop with the
unacceptable.
two, so that, I will stop with the two so you can take this. It's directed at you specifically.
Believe you me, you can't have the same treatment from people, depending on the family background he has also come from, the kind of upbringing the person is having. Somebody who comes from a background that treats people with courtesy, have sympathy for people, respect people, will treat people differently, even in public institutions. Then those who come from background that have no respect for anybody, no regard for anybody, you will get that kind of result. So if you put in 10 different human beings together, you will find different behavior or response or treatment from each of them. But what we try to do is to bring them to a level that we expect them to behave under the organization. Then those who cannot really fit in with that setting, that is why we also have a system that will either correct them or show them the way out, which is why dismissal is always also on the rise in our job, and those being punished on a regular basis there. And the key thing there also is training. Whether we like it or not, we must keep on retraining them to understand even how to answer telephone call. Just simple, you are welcome. Yesterday I was taking them in a class and I told them, there is nobody that this word sir has ever killed. Excuse me, sir. Good morning, sir. You're welcome, sir. Because keep on saying sir until the sir is in prison. Yeah, it won't take anything away from you. Can I see your particulars, please? Sorry, sir, you don't have valid papers. Sir, you're under arrest. He's happy. You're not shouting at him. You're doing your job. Statement time, sir. We need your statement. Sir is in court, and sir is going to prison. Bye-bye, sir. You have returned back to your office, and you have done your job. With courtesy. These are things we're also telling them. And these are, I agree with her, these are skills that you don't even need to learn them somewhere. They are inbuilt in people. But those that don't really want to exhibit it, what do? We must make them use it. We must train them. Maybe they have not gotten such from the background they are coming from. Definitely you have to raise them because we are all from different backgrounds. That is the reality.
The point, therefore, is at recruitment stage and the first 9 months now of training, could that be part of the basic training? So because it's always two sides. One is the prevention side. The other side is the punitive side. You said many important things, but you said something that caught my attention. You said we also have a lot of dismissals. Maybe people need to know that there's consequences to bad behavior and see those people being punished, including young recruits in police, to seeing that this person did that thing the other time, the person lost their job. So it becomes a deterrent. It becomes an understanding that this is not acceptable.
I think government plays a very crucial role. I think it's government's responsibility to ensure that their people are safe, right? And institutions work. And so most of the funding, well, my office, for instance, is completely funded by government. Yes, we do get some assistance every now and then, but in terms of running costs, everything is government. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been able to last so long. I mean, we're not dependent on donors. So I think the governments play a major role in ensuring what people are pushing for is dedicated budget lines to respond to sexual and gender-based violence. We have it in Lagos, but most states don't have a budget, a dedicated line. They have ministries, Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Education, but in terms of response to sexual and gender-based violence, there's a need to design a dedicated line, vote of charge in whichever ministry you want to do that. So I think government needs to own it. Government needs to own the process. And I think we should also encourage CSR. Because government cannot do it alone. So we need to encourage companies, corporate organizations, individuals. I don't think we have that charity culture here.
Where people donate.
Yes. In England, you see an advert, £2 to support a cat, £2 to support a dog. Perhaps it's because they believe that their £2 will be used fruitfully, as opposed to here. As you said, there's a lack of trust. But I think we also need to develop that giving culture. And then just train. You can't train. We've trained, I think this year, 5,000 police officers were redeployed. A good number of our FSU officers were part of that 5,000. So we have to retrain. So we have to keep training. And when we say training, we don't just mean train about the law, but talking also about the mindset. There is a mindset. You have to look at this from a service delivery perspective, and that's where the issue of empathy comes in. From the front gate, the security officer, how do you attend to somebody that comes in? So that's when we say training, we also mean emotional intelligence, and basically know that you can actually make or mar that case by your first encounter with a client.
All right. I mean, I want to thank both of you because we can go on and on about things that are possible. Even the funding already, I'm thinking, is there a way where we can institutionalize that, where people can get involved? This is where the fund goes to, because when there are big cases, Nigerians can be generous. They give. So if there's a way to show transparency and it's institutionalized and people can trust it, perhaps that can be a way, particularly for some areas where people feel strong emotions for, they can also contribute towards. What I want is to elicit some kind of promise from the police, particularly regarding this case, to give us an indication of what's going to happen, particularly one in the area of scaling. You did say that there's a concerted effort to make sure that the number of stations go from 11 to maybe all, or at least more. Do you have an idea of when and how that can be, and how many would happen in the near future?
Funding is very key to our replication plan. So with the little funding we are having, definitely I can't make much commitment of us covering 110 in this year. We may move a bit higher than what we are having, maybe to 20, 30 divisions before the end of the year. Then next year again we pick. We look at how whenever we have more funds, we can now move forward. Because there is no point saying we have family support unit in a particular police station, and the survivor comes and they're asking the survivor family to fund the investigation. It's very disheartening. It's better not to even have it. We need money to move. We need training. And training also costs money. Sometimes we bring experts from different parts of the country. Though we are blessed in Lagos with quite a number of experts. I've been a trainer in that field for over 10 years. So we can all volunteer ourselves to train them. But if it requires also calling our experts from the UK, also we will need money to also bring them down to also support. So training requires funding. Equipping the office also requires some funds. Whatever feedback I receive here, I return it back to the Commissioner of Police. We will sit at the management level, discuss them. We will see the need to move forward fast, and believe you me, we'll be there.
So if you go and called me back and said, look, Funmi, we think we can do even 12. I can put it out there that the Lagos State Police will do 12. And when the 12 is done, I can say, Mbana, they have done 12. Okay, can you now do 15? Do you know what I mean? So that way, the people are engaged with the institutions. You know, we will bring you what the issues are, and we'll still see if we can find solutions to it. Because at the end of the day, what is the point of continuously telling me the bad news if we don't find a way out of it?
And that's today's show. I thank you all for watching. Please follow us on all the platforms, social media, from YouTube to Instagram and Facebook. This is the Public Eye. We're watching you. Watch yourself. See you soon.